The detention facility on Corvax Prime wasn't built for humans. The gravity was 1.4 times Earth standard, the air tasted like copper and ash, and the cold seeped through the reinforced walls like a living thing. Seren Hale had been there for 73 days, accused of smuggling contraband across the Helix border. She was innocent, but innocence meant little in the outer systems. What kept her alive wasn't hope. It was Rix. The creature had been confiscated from a black market dealer 2 cells down, a Valkyrian cub, all midnight fur and molten gold eyes. The species was legendary, apex predators from a death world where even the plants had teeth. Adults stood 9 feet tall and could tear through starship hulls. This one was barely 3 feet, malnourished and scared, and the guards had thrown it into Seren's cell as a joke. "Let's see how long the human lasts with that thing," Warden Krivix had laughed. But Seren had grown up on a farm in Montana. She knew fear when she saw it, and she knew hunger. That first night, she'd torn her ration bar in half and slid it across the floor. Rix had watched her with those burning eyes for an hour before creeping forward to take it. By week 2, the cub slept curled against her back, sharing warmth in the freezing cell. By week 5, Rix would bare his teeth at anyone who came too close. By week 10, the guards had stopped laughing. Warden Krivix was a Thulian, 8 feet of scaled muscle and bureaucratic cruelty. He ran the facility like his personal kingdom, and prisoners who questioned him often disappeared into solitary confinement. Or worse, today he'd decided Seren had been too quiet during morning count. "You think you're special, human?" His voice echoed off the stone walls as he entered her cell, baton crackling with neural disruptor energy. "You think because you've tamed some animal, you're protected?" Seren stood slowly, her body aching from the gravity and poor nutrition. Rix moved to her side immediately, hackles raised, a low growl building in his chest. "I don't think anything, Warden," Seren said calmly. "I just want to go home." "Home?" Krevik stepped closer, his baton humming. "You're going to die here, Hale. But first, you're going to learn respect." The baton came down in a vicious arc aimed at her shoulder. Rix moved like liquid shadow. The cub's clawed hand shot up, catching the baton mid-swing with a grip that made the reinforced metal groan. Krevix's eyes widened. Valkyrians weren't supposed to be this fast at this age. The neural disruptor crackled uselessly against Rix's palm, the energy dissipating harmlessly through his bioelectric-resistant hide. Then Rix spoke. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of avalanches, the promise of storms. "Hit her again. See what happens." Krevix froze. Valkyrians weren't supposed to speak basic this early either. Their vocal cords didn't develop the capacity until adolescence. But here was this cub, this child, staring up at him with eyes that held the wisdom of something far older and infinitely more dangerous. You can't," Krevix stammered. "I learned," Rick said simply, still holding the baton. "She taught me, words, kindness, things my own kind never showed." His grip tightened and the baton began to crack. "She gave me her food when she was starving. She kept me warm when I was cold. She sang to me when I had nightmares." Seren's breath caught. She hadn't known he'd understood, hadn't known he'd been listening to her soft lullabies in the dark. "So I'll ask you one more time, Warden." Rix's growl deepened, and suddenly the 3-foot cub seemed to fill the entire cell. "Hit her again!" Krevix yanked his arm back, but Rix didn't let go. The baton shattered in his grip, pieces of metal and circuitry clattering to the floor. This is..." The warden's scales had gone pale. "This is insubordination. You're both going to..." "Going to what?" A new voice cut through the tension. Commander Thrace stood in the cell doorway, her Alliance uniform crisp despite the grime of the facility. Behind her, 3 armed soldiers aimed weapons at Krivix, not at Seren. "Commander?" Krevix's voice cracked. "Seren Hale's case has been reviewed and overturned. The contraband charges were fabricated by your staff to justify illegal detention quotas." Thrace's expression was stone. "You're under arrest, Warden, and I see we have a witness to your assault." Rix hadn't moved, still standing protectively in front of Seren, his small chest heaving. Thrace's gaze softened as it fell on the cub. "Is this the Valkyrian the reports mentioned?" The one you've been caring for, Miss Hale? Siren found her voice. Yes, ma'am. His name is Rix. Well, Thrace knelt slowly, meeting Rix's eyes at his level. Young one, would you like to stay with Siren, or would you prefer we find your homeworld? Rix looked up at Siren, then back at the commander. When he spoke, his voice was clear and certain. Home is where she is. 3 months later, Siren stood on the observation deck of the transport ship bound for Earth, Rix beside her. He'd grown, already 4 feet tall and still developing. The Alliance had granted her official guardianship, recognizing the bond between them as protected under interspecies companionship laws. You didn't have to do that, Siren said softly, watching the stars streak past. Back in that cell, you could have been hurt. Rix made a sound somewhere between a purr and a chuckle. You're my pack, my family. On my world, we die for family. This isn't your world anymore. No, Rix agreed, leaning against her side. But you taught me something better than my world ever could. You taught me that strength isn't just about claws and teeth. It's about choosing to be kind when you have every reason not to be. Siren wrapped her arm around his shoulders, feeling the warmth of him, the steady rhythm of his breathing. Besides, Rix added with a hint of mischief in his voice, humans have a saying, don't they? Fuck around and find out. Siren laughed, the first real laugh in months. Yeah, we do. In the cold vastness of space, aboard a ship full of strangers heading toward an uncertain future, two unlikely souls had found something the galaxy rarely offered: belonging. And anyone who tried to take that away would learn exactly what happens when you threaten a human's family, or a Valkyrian's.